This is Radio TV Phononut, and we have an Audition brand, which I believe was Woolworth's house brand. AM/FM solid state dual speaker radio, probably from the late 60s or early 70s. I'm leaning more towards late 60s though. It's not in the best cosmetic shape, but somebody I know needs a AM/FM radio, I think, to put in their barn, so it doesn't really matter what it looks like. So if I can get this one playing, I'm probably going to give it to them. We have it plugged in, and as you can tell, it's totally dead as a doornail, no action at all. So let's open it up and see what we've got. Here's the inside, typical Japanese set, and it looks like a line-driven model, which means it doesn't use a power transformer. It has a big dropping resistor and a high-voltage filter capacitor here, and it looks like the varmints have eaten holes in the speaker cones. And if I had to make an educated guess, probably what happened is the diode shorted and blew open the dropping resistor, and that's why it's dead. I've seen that a lot in these types of sets. Alright, I have juice applied and the voltmeter connected. Let's see if I'm getting any DC on the filter capacitor. And I'm not a darn thing. No surprise there. And I'm getting AC at the power cord, so that tells us obviously the power cord's good. It was kind of corroded looking, so I just wanted to check there. Now, continuity of the power switch, good. Okay, let's check our AC input at the dropping resistor. If I can get in here to it. There we go, 119 volts. So the other end of the resistor should connect to the diode, the anode of the diode. So let's check and see if we have voltage there. And I'm not getting a darn thing. Okay, I pulled the chassis to give me a little better access. Here's the AC input to the dropping resistor, 120 volts, that's good. Here's the output of the dropping resistor, and we have Zippo. So we know that resistor is okay. I checked the diode and it checks okay, but we definitely know that this dropping resistor is open, and I detect no shorts from the output of the diode to ground. This paper and oil capacitor that goes across that goes from the anode side of the diode to ground, those are notorious for leaking, so we might want to replace that just to be on the safe side. Okay, here it is. The name of the part is a Suzuki, and it's a 500 ohm resistor, but not according to this ohm meter. Here's a bucket of resistors and capacitors and stuff that I've salvaged out of various pieces of junk over the years. So, in keeping with an effort to fix this without having to go to the parts house and spend any money, let's look through the junk stash and see if we can find something that will work. Okay, I found a 470 ohm, and that's close enough to do the job. Okay, I misspoke earlier. That capacitor that I mentioned actually does not go from the anode of the diode to ground. It actually goes across the diode, but for right now we have it out of circuit. We're going to replace it shortly, but right now let's run the smoke test and see what happens. You know, we're getting a little static. But of course, no stations. Makes you wonder when you get something like this that the power supply is blown out of it. And then you replace parts, and then you get relatively nothing out of it otherwise. Makes you wonder if lightning might have run in on this, but Oh well, it makes for all the more interesting troubleshooting procedure. And you can see how I mounted the resistor. I used our old resistor as a standoff and then attached a terminal strip there to the leftover area on this bolt. And then as you can see, I soldered the resistor to the terminal strip and ran wires down to the circuit board where the original resistor soldered, so it's out of the way of overheating anything. It's not going to burn up anything from the heat, and it's not going to touch anything and short out anything, so that's good. Okay, I sprayed the switches and controls with contact cleaner, and that didn't solve any problems. It's still totally deaf on both AM and FM. Now, either we're missing a voltage somewhere, or I suspect the problem is in the IF chain, because generally in these sets they use the same IF circuitry for both AM and FM, and since both bands are dead, that would be my guess. If it was in the front end sections like the converter stages, generally the only band that would be inoperative would be the defective band. The other one would still work. So that's where I'm leaning right now, just as a educated guess. But yeah, it's been such a long time since I've given you any videos that now that we've gotten started back, we're going to make them interesting. It's not going to be no routine replace one burned open resistor or whatever and get the set back in business. We're going to get into some in-depth troubleshooting here. Alright, that tells us our final audio output stage is passing some sort of a signal, so we need to concentrate on our front end and IF circuitry. And this looks like the IF strip here, these groups of transistors, and all this will be your oscillator and mixer stages here closer to the tuning condenser. And of course this has a high voltage audio output transistor, as you can see, mounted to the heatsink there. Now what I should do is just go ahead and replace every one of the capacitors on the circuit board, because I know doing that will magically bring this set to life, bring it back to like new operating performance. Okay, I've got the signal generator out and set to 455 kilocycles, and I believe our problem is in this first IF stage. If things was working right, when I inject a signal, and yes, I know I need to make me a signal generator probe, but that's for another day. But if everything was working right, I should be able to inject a signal into the first stage, and it would be very loud. Then second stage, second transistor here, and it would be somewhat softer. And in this last transistor, it should be even softer than that. So let's see what happens. That's number one. That's number two, and it's even louder than number one. And that's the third stage, and it's louder than, that's the third transistor, and it's louder than all of them. So we might have problems in both of these stages here. But the problem is, it's going to be kind of hard to get to the foil side of the circuit board to do any troubleshooting because this dial scale is in the way. What'd they do? Take lessons from GE on this, or what? Okay, I checked the first transistor, which, by the way, this uses germanium transistors, if I hadn't already said that. It checked funny in circuit, so I pulled it out, and it checked okay once I got it out of circuit. But with these germanium transistors, you never know. They can check okay and sometimes not work. Well, when I resoldered it into the circuit, the darn thing started perking a little bit. Alright, let's see.
home playoff game, even in the first round. Now,
that's tomorrow on the Kid Craddock Morning Show.
East Mississippi Oral and Facial Surgery has moved. Their new state-of-the-art clinic is now located at 1212 24th Avenue.
As many couples
get out of the way.
And become one this wedding season, they might be a bit more hesitant to let their bank accounts do the same.
During that speech, which is not a good thing for him to do.
Well, that's nice. The darn dial stream broke. You know what? This radio's looking more and more like something that's going to go to the trash. I'm sure the dial stream broke because whatever varmints chewed through these speakers probably chewed a little bit on the dial string too. And you know what? I'm not really interested in restringing the dial on this thing. You know, it's already a basket case, so why bother with it? Might play around with it, but this one's probably going to get parted out. Well, if I decided to restring this, at least they give us a diagram on the back cover for what that's worth. But I'm going to be honest, stringing dials is my least favorite thing about repairing old radios. In fact, I've left old radios at the flea market whenever I saw that the dial string was broken. I think that's 104. There's nothing after 104. There should be something at 106.9, but it appears to be pretty deaf after 104. Nope, maybe that is 106.9. If it is, it's way out of alignment because I'm having to go a pretty good bit to get it up to the top end. All right, let's try AM. We had AM a minute ago. And now AM appears to be dead. I'm still not above throwing this thing in the trash. I have way more worthwhile projects I could be working on. So I guess the purpose of this video is pretty much to let you know that it is okay to draw the line on something. And I guess where you choose to draw the line on it depends on your personal taste or whatever, how far you wish to go with something. And like I've already said about 2 or 3 times, this thing's in sad shape. The cabinet's not in great shape. The speakers have holes in it. I don't think this would ever be a really great radio if it was working 100%. And like I said, I don't want to restring the dial. And really my main motivation for fixing this was to give it to the person I know that needs one. And that's really no reason to spend half a century on this. I've got other AM, FM radios here that I could probably dig up and let this person have. So I think what's going to happen to this one is we're going to save the cheater cord off of it. We always need these tight power cords. And of course I'll pull my terminal strip and resistor off of here. We're not going to let that go to the trash. And I'll throw the PC board in my parts pile. And the old cabinet speakers we can put in file 13. Alright, there you go. Thanks for watching, and hopefully the next one will be a success story.